modern myth. Movies are modern myth. Superhero movies are modern myth. Like, is it not the same when you say, like, we have Superman, right, and Batman or whatever? Are they not the mythic answer to a lot of modern questions about, like, how we should live? You know, like, you say Superman, is he not an invention, a 20th century invention that says to us, like, all the fucking shit that we run up against, whether it be war or like class struggle, or whether it be, relationships between different countries, does Superman not appear in answer to us primitive brains trying to figure out where we are? Like, you make a guy like Superman so he can answer some of those questions. He can represent a point of view that is not helpless in the face of the insanity that is, like, the problems of the 20th century.
Well, that was Zack Snyder, and I am Mick Meanus, your host with the most. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the mostest. Ask your girlfriends and your wives. You can follow me on X, Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads, Movies TV Mad X. On TikTok, nearly forgot what the bloody platform was called. On TikTok, Mad Mickey's World, because I'm loopy. And on Snapchat, BMouth60, Mick, your host with the most. A very warm welcome to Monday's edition of the DCU Daily. We're here. We're back together, DC fans. Let's stop these arguments. Let's stop this hate bait, this rage bait. Everyone's arguing about something. It's breaking my heart. It's really, really sad. So why did I play you that brilliant monologue from Zack Snyder talking about his love of Superman and Batman and what they mean to him and what he feels they should mean within comics and in movies, and eloquently spoke about how they can echo what's going on in the world today, how they can help us deal with the problems from the 20th century or the 21st century or whatever. But that's not really the reason I played it. This morning or last night, I saw it on X Twitter, and I thought this would be an interesting thing to talk about on Monday's DCU Daily, because I think it's very interesting how differently Zack talks about DC and how differently James Gunn talks about DC. The passion there of Zack Snyder. I mean, as his good wife Deb always says, Zack is a fan. He cares about these characters. And you can see the passion. It's not bullshit. It's proper passion, isn't it, boys and girls? And this is the difference, I think, between him and James Gunn. When James Gunn talks about DC, since he's become co-CEO of DC Studios, he's talking like a company man. He's trying to lure you with his breadcrumbs to the cinema to watch Superman. As a company studio man, it's not passionate. It's not passionate. Hi, I'm James Gunn. Would you like to come and see my movie? That interview I saw him, they teased an interview with him, or a conversation with him and Jim Lee, right? And it looked very pleasant and very interesting, and I can't wait to see it, but it's business. It's business. It's all business. When Zack was running DC, when he was part of the DCEU, he wasn't running a business. He didn't care about money. And it is an industry, and money does matter, but he didn't care about the money. He cared about the creativity. And this is the difference, the passion, the love he has for these characters. And we're so lucky as fans. I'm not talking about the people who actually don't like Zack. I'm talking about us lot who love Zack, right, and appreciate those 3 movies that he made. And we were lucky to have him, to have those 3 movies in our physical media collection, because those movies embody the passion of Zack Snyder. And the Man of Steel movie is very unique in the sense that that was Zack and David Goyer and the great Christopher Nolan making a movie together. That probably will never happen again. Christopher Nolan got to work on a Superman movie because he was inspired to become a director through Dick Donner's Superman 78, which I was actually watching yesterday. What did I say yesterday on X Twitter about those 2 movies? I said they're both products of their time, and that's a good thing. And Zack Snyder couldn't have made Superman 78, and Richard Donner couldn't have made Man of Steel with all the gadgets and the technology and the green screens. But Zack Snyder probably would have found it a more difficult challenge to make Superman 78. There's no technology, basically. The technology there was archaic to make that movie. Everything mostly was put, in camera, was shot in camera. There was a few effects houses, but not in the levels there are today. The techniques in special effects, it's all done on a computer. You edit a movie on a computer. Dick didn't edit that movie with his editor on a computer. They were in an old-fashioned room. They were cutting film reels, right? And putting them together. That's how it used to be done. Zack probably wouldn't know how to do that, or maybe he learned it at film school. I don't know. So, both movies, for me, Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeve are the best live-action Superman, and they will always be, right? And I think it's interesting. When they made Superman 78 and they saw the George Reeves show, they didn't say, let's make our movie like the George Reeves show. That was made in the 60s. They made their own thing. They tried to be as accurate of a depiction as they could, but they did their own thing. And when Zack and David and Chris made Man of Steel, they didn't say, let's make our Superman like Christopher Reeves, George Reeves, Tom Wellings. They did their own Superman. But both Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill have got one thing I'm not sure that David Consworth has. We'll see when we see the movie. He looks okay when I've seen the teaser in him. He's a great actor. He's a very talented young actor, by the way. There's no question about that. But there's something special about Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeve. I think Tom Welling did a great job as well. Never wearing the suit, but always embodying the innocence of Clark Kent and Superman. So he's in there as well for me. The rest of them are the also-rans. They're not bad versions of Superman, but they're not Christopher Reeve, they're not Henry Cavill, and they're certainly not Tom Welling. Let's hear it for Tom Welling, man. He did an amazing job for 10 years. Amazing! And he learned how to be an actor because he had no experience. We could see how raw he was in that pilot, but he became a better and better actor, and he became a brilliant director on the show and executive producer as well. And it was brilliant to see a young man grow up, because that's what Smallville was about, by the way. But that audio that I played you just shows you how much Zack cares. Zack would drop everything right now if he was allowed to make more DC movies. And it's a shame he's not allowed, because this is where this discourse comes from, where a man had a vision, and in the middle of it, it was like, yeah, that's it. We don't want you making movies. Not because your movies don't make money, because they don't make enough money. So it's very interesting, actually, when you heard Mike DeLuca speak the other day, when he was in a written interview with Deadline, and he said, oh, this new Superman movie is very similar to Superman 78. They are obsessed with Superman 78, right? Now, there's a rumour, well, it's not a rumour, it's true, I've been told it from people who've seen the test screening, there is a 10-minute scene in this new movie where Lois is interviewing Clark, but as Superman. We spoke about it before. I'm just wondering, the kids chucking popcorn at each other and on the screen, watching Minecraft, are they going to sit there for 10 minutes watching a dialogue-heavy scene where Lois Lane interviews Clark Kent as Superman? Are they going to sit there? 10 minutes of dialogue. These days, that's like a 3-hour film with just talking in it. Modern audiences they haven't got a good attention span. And again, this is the mistake that Superman Returns did. 1978, 1980 pacing, 1980s pacing from a movie that was being released in the 21st century, 2006. And audiences called it boring because to audiences, a lot of talking in a movie is boring. Do I agree with that? No. I think if your dialogue's pacey and great, and it means something and the actors are gobbling it up in the beautiful way that actors do, us actors do, I think it's a wonderful thing. But the modern generation, because you want their money, right? And it's not just a modern generation, it's people even my age or even slightly younger than me, 40s, 30s, they don't want to sit there watching 10 minutes of dialogue. Now, I wonder if James Gunn's going to reduce that 10-minute scene. Now, we know in Superman 78, there's an extended scene of Superman and Lois. Lois is interviewing Superman on the balcony. Even today I find that a beautiful scene. But you know that scene's, that's an amazing scene because it's not boring, because there's a lot of banter in it. It's funny. You know, do you have are all your bodily functions normal? And she does it in a kind of pervy way. Are your bodily functions normal? It's funny. And he looks at it and he goes, he doesn't understand. And she goes, putting it delicately, do you eat? So the way Tom Mankiewicz wrote that dialogue was amazing. It popped, it was amazing. But I still don't feel that modern audiences would sit through that today. Because Superman 78 is a product of its time. Man of Steel is a product of its time. You gave people the opportunity. You wrote a love letter in Superman Returns to Superman 78, and people said no, they rejected it, right? I love Superman Returns. It's a movie of great moments rather than a great movie, but the public rejected it. It was a flop. It made under 400 million. But then Man of Steel was released. A movie that had a lot of pace, a lot of destruction, perfect for people, the modern day audiences with low concentration levels, right? It made nearly 700 million at the global box office, right? That did make a profit. That did make a hit. Not as much as a profit that the studio wanted from it, but it finished as a plus rather than a minus. That film was a hit. That's why it got a sequel called Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Well, it wouldn't have got a sequel, would it? And it wouldn't have got another sequel in the Suicide Squad, and it wouldn't have got Wonder Woman, right? And it wouldn't have got Zack Snyder's Justice League or even Justice League, right? Or Aquaman. All these films happened because Man of Steel was a good hit. Not as much as they wanted, but it was a hit. Don't get it twisted. At the end of the day, Superman Returns was a flop. Superman Returns nearly cost 300 million to make. And it didn't even make 400 million. So it probably, we call it breaking even, not profit-wise, but it got his money back, I suppose. But then there's the marketing. So anyway, what you see with Man of Steel is the right way to make modern-day superhero movies. With pace, with action. That's what people want to see. Now, the diehards didn't like that. I mean, earlier I was talking about Doctor Who, right? And how we've broken the Doctor's hearts, the way everyone's going at each other, right? And this is what happened with Man of Steel. Some people just didn't want to face the future, right? They wanted Superman 78. So, if DeLuca is right, and this is another Superman 78 vibe, let's see how that works out. Let's see if kids and teenagers and guys and girls in their 20s are going to sit there with a 10-minute interview between Superman and Lois Lane. Because if he doesn't reduce the length of that scene, people are going to be bored. Nobody from the modern audience is going to sit there. And Snyder got it. Snyder knew exactly how to pace the origin story, because on Krypton it was full of action and pace, right? Now in Superman 78, Brando and Susanna York and the Kryptonian elders, they did a lot of talking, and that was okay in 1978. But no one's going to the cinema to see that this time. Now Gunn hasn't got an origin story. It'll be interesting what he does there. So Gunn is going, as I said, Gunn's going with the Superman greatest hits vibe. Superman 78 is a check mark they're really going for, because they think that's what people want. Now, hardcore Superman fans may want it, but general audiences don't. And here's the thing. Superman fans will go and watch this movie, whatever the case, right? Within general, I know there's some people threatening to boycott it, but within generally, the nerds are going to see this movie. Who you need to see this movie are those kids and families that are going to see Minecraft, who are chucking popcorn at the screen and each other, right? And a 10-minute dialogue-heavy scene between Clark and Lois just ain't going to cut it. And this proves that Gunn, DC Studios, Safran, David Zaslav, all of them don't get it. I love Superman 78. It's the reason I fell in love with this character. It's the reason I fell in love with stories, film, everything. The reason why I wanted to be an actor, writer, director. I love it, and I watch it all the time. As I said, I watched it yesterday. But you can't make a film in that way. In 2025, you can't put a film like that. Now, if Gunn pulls it off and it makes money, it makes $1 billion or whatever, I eat my humble pie, right? Of course. But I don't think modern day audiences are going to sit there and watch a 10-minute dialogue heavy scene. The truth is, Snyder did it right. And it could be the proof of the pudding's in the eating. That actually, if this movie doesn't make as much as Man of Steel, it proves that Snyder, Nolan, and Goya got it right. And I believe they did.